The phone line crackled to life just after 7:30 in the morning. A woman's voice, strained but trying to sound professional, spoke to the dispatcher. "Please, get out of here. I have customers coming in." Then, sharper, more urgent, "Chris." A single gunshot ripped through the call. In the seconds that followed, a faint male voice muttered something that sounded like "F you" before the line stayed open to the sounds of frantic dogs barking in the background. Help was already racing toward the Mississippi Ridge boarding kennels in Bellevue, Iowa, but it was too late. Angela Pritchard, 55 years old, lay dead from a close-range shotgun wound to the chest. What makes this moment so haunting is not just the violence captured on the recording. It's that Angela knew exactly who was in the room with her. She named him on her final call for help. And that name, combined with a trail of her own quiet documentation of terror, would unravel everything. Angela Pritchard had been trying to rebuild her life after years of a fracturing marriage. She worked at the kennel, a place filled with the comforting chaos of animals she loved. She had sought protection orders. She had called police multiple times about her estranged husband, Christopher Pritchard. But on that October morning in 2022, none of it was enough to stop him from walking in with a shotgun. The investigation began in chaos. Officers arrived to find Angela's body in the kennel area. The 911 recording was immediate evidence, but it raised as many questions as it answered. Why had she been able to speak to the dispatcher at all if her killer was right there? How had Chris gained access so easily? And what had driven a man who once shared a life with her to this point? Christopher Pritchard had a history that painted a picture of escalating control and rage. The couple's marriage had deteriorated amid allegations of domestic violence. In April 2022, he was arrested for domestic abuse. Angela obtained no contact orders. Yet Chris violated them. He sent threatening texts. He showed up where he wasn't supposed to be. Angela documented it all, not in a formal diary, but on brightly colored sticky notes scattered around her life like desperate breadcrumbs. One note read something like, August 23rd text message. Calling me names. Saying it's gonna get real ing ugly. Another captured her deep fear. I think Chris is capable of anything. He told my sister he didn't care if he went to jail. She even noted guns placed strategically in their former home. These weren't dramatic pleas for attention. They were a woman quietly archiving the slow burn of a threat that authorities seemed unable or unwilling to fully neutralize. Police had responded to her calls, but the system moved slowly in a small town. Chris spent a night in jail for violating an order but failed to serve additional time properly. The no-contact orders existed on paper, but the protection they offered felt paper-thin. On the morning of the murder, Angela arrived at the kennel around 7:34 a.m. to prepare for opening. Within minutes, the 911 call captured her confrontation with an intruder she immediately identified. The gunshot came shortly after she said his name. The dogs barking on the recording provided a grim audio timeline that helped corroborate when the shot occurred and that someone had been present. Investigators quickly focused on Chris. He was missing. Hours later, he turned up at a friend's house, armed with a shotgun and ammunition. He had been on the run but eventually passed out. Friends alerted authorities. When arrested, he had the murder weapon. His defense would later claim accident or minimization, but the evidence told a different story. The 911 recording was devastating. Angela's voice naming him right before the fatal shot left little room for doubt about the shooter's identity. The sticky notes provided context for premeditation and motive, the culmination of months of documented threats and harassment. Surveillance, phone records, and witness accounts of his movements filled in the rest. The trial in early 2024 laid it bare. Prosecutors played the 911 call. They introduced Angela's handwritten notes as evidence of her genuine, ongoing fear. The jury deliberated for roughly an hour before convicting Christopher Pritchard of first-degree murder and robbery. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. In the aftermath, Angela's family pursued a civil lawsuit against the city and police, alleging failures in responding to her repeated pleas for help. The suit highlighted how warnings were documented but action felt insufficient. Courts ultimately dismissed much of it, but the questions linger about how domestic violence escalates in plain sight. What really happened that morning was the tragic end of a pattern. Chris Pritchard, fueled by rage and a refusal to let go, confronted Angela at her workplace. She tried to de-escalate, speaking calmly to the intruder while secretly alerting authorities. In her final moments, she named him, ensuring the recording would capture the truth even if she couldn't survive to tell it. The psychology here is as old as human conflict, possessive control that turns lethal when the victim tries to break free. Angela's sticky notes weren't just records, they were an act of quiet defiance, a way of asserting that her fear was real and her story mattered. The 911 call was her last stand, brave, composed under terror, and ultimately the key that locked away her killer. In the end, truth emerged not from dramatic detective work alone, but from a woman's voice on a phone line and words she left behind on ordinary slips of paper. They proved that even in the face of overwhelming danger, some lights refused to be extinguished. Angela Pritchard made sure her killer's identity and her own terror would not be silenced. The case stands as a sobering reminder of the complexities surrounding domestic violence situations, where victims often navigate fear with remarkable resilience while seeking safety through available channels. Angela's final actions, captured forever in that recorded call, continue to echo as both a heartbreaking tragedy and a testament to her courage in the midst of unimaginable peril. If you want to uncover more dark truths and hidden histories, subscribe to FrameTale HQ, hit the notification bell, and leave your thoughts on this story in the comments below. Until next time, keep searching for the truth.